Hey guys, tonight we're going to embark on a truly soothing journey, one that takes us back thousands of years to the sun-drenched lands of ancient Egypt. Imagine, if you will, the gentle lapping of the Nile against its banks, the faint scent of papyrus and drying mud bricks carried on a soft breeze, and the distant, rhythmic chirping of crickets as the desert cools. You're there, walking among the towering temples and bustling markets, a silent observer in a world both familiar and profoundly alien. And just like us, the ancient Egyptians, for all their grand pyramids and intricate hieroglyphs, sometimes found themselves with a rather throbbing problem, a headache. Yes, even pharaohs and priests occasionally suffered from that dull ache behind the eyes, that relentless pounding in the temples, or that general fuzziness that makes you just want to lie down in a cool, dark tomb and forget the world. Now, while we might reach for a modern painkiller, the Egyptians had, different methods. Some of them were surprisingly practical, others rather peculiar. And a few, frankly, would make you genuinely grateful for modern medicine. Let's just say, you probably wouldn't survive a single day trying some of their more inventive remedies. The thought of it alone might be enough to give you a phantom ache. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It truly helps the channel, and it tells me you appreciate these little forays into the forgotten corners of ancient well-being. And if you're feeling up to it, drop a comment with your location and the local time. It's always fascinating to see where everyone is drifting off to. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. We're stepping back into a world where headaches were a mystery, sometimes attributed to angry gods, sometimes to mischievous spirits, and sometimes, just sometimes, to a very bad night's sleep after a rather enthusiastic feast. The Egyptians, ever practical, cataloged these ailments with remarkable detail considering the lack of advanced diagnostic tools. You can almost feel a gentle coolness descending, as if you're lying on the cool stone floor of an ancient Egyptian home, listening to the soft whispers of their remedies for the ages, drifting into a peaceful slumber. The sheer variety of their approaches to this common affliction, from the mundane to the truly bizarre, is a testament to their perseverance in the face of discomfort. Our journey into ancient Egyptian headache remedies begins, quite fittingly, with medical papyri. These incredibly old documents are like ancient textbooks filled with observations, diagnoses, and, most importantly for us, recipes for various ailments. Imagine unrolling a brittle, yellowish scroll, the faint scent of age and Nile mud in the air, and seeing hieroglyphs carefully painted, detailing the symptoms and proposed treatments for everything from a splinter to, you guessed it, a splitting headache. The most famous of these is the Ebers Papyrus, dating back to around 1550 BC. It's a truly remarkable window into Egyptian medical thought, a collection of over 700 remedies and incantations. Within its delicate fibers, you'll find sections dedicated to head pain, offering insights that are both surprisingly astute and wonderfully peculiar. The Egyptians didn't just have one blanket term for a headache, they seemed to categorize different types. Just as we might distinguish between a tension headache and a migraine, they noticed patterns, describing pain that settled over the entire head versus pain concentrated in one specific area. It's a testament to their keen observational skills, honed over centuries. Over, one of the more straightforward remedies found in these papyri, and one that feels quite relatable even today, involves applying various substances to the forehead or scalp. Think of it like a very, very ancient cold compress. They might have used bandages soaked in cool water, or perhaps applied paste made from ground herbs. It's almost soothing just to imagine. Isn't it the simplicity of it, in a world without ibuprofen? However, the exact ingredients often took a detour into the more, shall we say, unconventional territory, you might find a recipe calling for something like boiled herbs, which sounds perfectly pleasant. Right. But then it might pivot to then add the skull of a fish. And suddenly you're thinking twice about that ancient compress. This blend of the practical and the perplexing is a hallmark of ancient Egyptian medicine. They were certainly empirically minded. They observed what worked, or seemed to work, and wrote it down. But their understanding of disease was also deeply intertwined with magic and religion. For them, illness wasn't just a physical imbalance. It could be the work of angry deities, mischievous demons, or even the lingering influence of a deceased ancestor. Historians still argue whether the medical and magical aspects of their healing practices were seen as distinct, or as two inseparable sides of the same coin. Either way, these papyri, carefully preserved in the desert sands, give us a fascinating, if sometimes baffling, glimpse into how an ancient civilization grappled with that universal annoyance, a headache. You can almost feel the gentle weight of knowledge from forgotten ages, pressing softly on your eyelids, easing you into a peaceful, headache-free slumber. Given the Egyptian belief system, where gods and spirits had a hand in everything from the flooding of the Nile to the success of a harvest, it's hardly surprising that their approach to headaches often included a healthy dose of magic. For them, a headache wasn't just a physical discomfort, it could be a spiritual attack, a malady sent by a disgruntled deity, or perhaps a mischievous demon trying to spoil your afternoon. So, alongside their herbal concoctions, you'd find a fascinating array of magical headache cures. Imagine a priest or a specially trained healer, not just grinding herbs, but meticulously reciting incantations, tracing symbols in the air, or creating powerful amulets. These weren't just side rituals, they were often considered as vital, if not more vital, than the physical remedies themselves. One common belief was that headaches could be caused by evil spirits or demons of the head, attempting to enter the body through the ears or nostrils. Therefore, the magical cures were designed to repel these invisible invaders. One particular example, often whispered about in the gentle breeze that carries tales from the past, involved a specific type of charm. You might be instructed to tie a piece of linen, inscribed with certain hieroglyphs or symbols, around your head. This linen would act as a magical barrier, preventing the malevolent forces from causing further discomfort. Think of it as an ancient, very spiritual headache band. Or perhaps you'd be given a small, intricately carved amulet, perhaps depicting a protective deity or a powerful symbol, to wear around your neck or place on your forehead. The mere presence of such an item was believed to ward off the pain-inducing entities. And then there were the incantations. These were carefully worded spells, often invoking the names of powerful gods like Thoth, the god of wisdom and magic, or Sekhmet, the fierce lioness goddess associated with healing and disease. The words themselves were thought to possess inherent power, capable of commanding the headache to depart. Imagine the healer, standing over you, reciting these rhythmic, ancient verses in a low, soothing tone, the words swirling around you like a gentle, protective mist. Depart, thou headache be gone, thou pain by the power of Thoth, be thou expelled. It truly sounds like a lullaby designed to soothe away aches, doesn't it? It's easy for us, with our modern understanding of anatomy and neuroscience, to dismiss these magical practices as mere superstition. However, for the ancient Egyptians, these rituals provided comfort, hope, and a sense of control over ailments they couldn't otherwise explain. Moreover, the psychological effect of believing in a cure, especially when administered by a respected religious figure, can be incredibly powerful. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians saw magic as truly separate from their empirical medical practices, or if they viewed them as complementary tools in a holistic approach to health and well-being. Either way, these spiritual remedies were a soothing balm for the anxious mind, A gentle whisper that you are protected, helping you drift off to a peaceful, dream-filled sleep. Now, let's turn our attention to some remedies that might sound a little more culinary. The ancient Egyptians, like many cultures, recognized the medicinal properties of the plants and foods around them, and two humble but powerful ingredients often found their way into their headache cures: garlic and onions. While we might relegate them to the kitchen for flavoring our dinner, the Egyptians saw them as potent healing agents. Imagine yourself in an ancient Egyptian kitchen, perhaps a simple sun-baked room with earthenware pots and baskets of produce. You watch as someone carefully grinds cloves of garlic or chops a pungent onion. The air might be thick with the aroma. These weren't just tossed into a stew. They were prepared with a specific medical purpose in mind. Garlic, with its strong, almost aggressive scent, was believed to have a purifying effect, capable of driving out illness. Onions, too, were prized for their perceived ability to draw out toxins and soothe discomfort. One popular approach involved crushing garlic or onions and applying them topically. Think of it as a very pungent compress. You might have had a paste made from these ingredients, perhaps mixed with a little oil or honey, smeared onto your temples or forehead. The sensation, I imagine, would have been quite invigorating, to say the least. It might not have smelled like roses, but the Egyptians believed that the strong vapors and active compounds in these plants would somehow alleviate the pain. It's a bit like our modern use of menthol rubs for congestion. Isn't it, just with a lot more oniony freshness? Beyond direct application, there are hints in the papyri that these ingredients might have been consumed as part of a medicinal diet. Perhaps you'd be advised to eat a certain amount of raw garlic, or drink a brew infused with onion, to tackle the headache from the inside out. This holistic approach, combining external applications with internal consumption, shows a surprisingly sophisticated understanding of how different remedies might work together. Historians still argue whether the perceived benefits were truly pharmacological, or if the strong odors simply distracted the patient from the pain, or even if the placebo effect was primarily at play. The use of garlic and onions for headaches is a quirky yet relatable tidbit from ancient Egyptian medicine. It reminds us that even with all the talk of magic and elaborate rituals, the Egyptians also relied on the readily available, earthy wisdom of their environment. It's a testament to their practicality, a gentle reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions are found right under our noses, or perhaps on our foreheads. You can almost smell the pungent, soothing aroma now, guiding you gently into a calm, onion-infused slumber. Now, for a remedy that truly ventures into the realm of the unbelievable, and perhaps the most infamous of all ancient Egyptian headache cures: the crocodile dung suppository. Yes, you heard that correctly. Imagine having a pounding headache, and your trusted physician suggests that it certainly makes those onion compresses seem rather appealing, doesn't it? This peculiar remedy is documented in several ancient texts, including fragments of medical papyri. The logic, if one can call it that, behind such a concoction is shrouded in the mysteries of ancient beliefs. Crocodiles, revered and feared creatures of the Nile, held significant symbolic power in Egyptian culture. Their dung, therefore, might have been thought to possess some of that raw, primal force, capable of expelling unwanted ailments. It's a fascinating leap of faith, isn't it, from a majestic beast to a very unpleasant form of medicine. The exact preparation, thankfully, is not always described in vivid detail, allowing our imaginations to mercifully draw a veil over the specifics. But the general idea involved mixing crocodile dung with other ingredients, perhaps some resin or fat, to form a consistency that could be shaped and then inserted. The notion was that by introducing this potent, if unsavory, substance into the body, the headache, which was often believed to be caused by bad humors or evil spirits, would be drawn out or driven away. You can almost hear the ancient Egyptian physician reassuring a skeptical patient. Trust me, this will work. It's natural. While modern science would, of course, find absolutely no physiological basis for crocodile dung alleviating a headache. It's a powerful reminder of how ancient medicine often intertwined with magic, symbolism, and a hefty dose of trial and error. The psychological impact, however, cannot be entirely dismissed if a patient was desperate enough to try such a remedy. The sheer mental leap required might have induced a strong placebo effect. Or, perhaps, the sheer discomfort served as such a powerful distraction that the original headache simply faded into insignificance. My head still hurts, but I have other concerns now. Historians still argue whether such extreme remedies were truly widespread or reserved for the most desperate cases, or if they were recorded simply because of their unusual nature. This particular cure is a quirky, fringe tidbit that beautifully illustrates the vast difference between ancient and modern medical practices. It's certainly a you won't believe moment, and one that makes you incredibly grateful for contemporary pain relief. So, as we gently ponder the depths of ancient medical inventiveness, let the thought of such an earthy and remedy carry you further into a peaceful, headache-free slumber, far, far away from any crocodiles. Moving from the truly wild to the more, shall we say, reliably effective. We find another ancient Egyptian remedy that has surprisingly modern parallels: the use of opium and poppy. Yes, the ancient Egyptians were quite aware of the pain-relieving properties of the opium poppy, and they weren't shy about incorporating it into their medical practices, including those for headaches. Imagine fields of beautiful, delicate poppies, swaying gently in the Egyptian breeze, their vibrant petals concealing the potent medicine within. The opium poppy, Papaver somniferum, was cultivated in Egypt as early as the New Kingdom period. The latex, or opium, extracted from the unripe seed pods, was known for its narcotic effects, inducing sleep and, crucially, dulling pain. This wasn't some fringe, experimental treatment. Opium was a recognized and valued pharmaceutical in their pharmacopoeia. The Eber's Papyrus, our trusty ancient medical textbook, even contains recipes that call for poppy, while it doesn't explicitly state for headache. The general use of poppy for pain relief and sedation would certainly have extended to head pain. Think of it as their ancient, organic painkiller, far more potent than any herb they might have ground into a compress. You can almost imagine an ancient Egyptian physician carefully preparing a small dose, perhaps mixed with honey or other liquids, to be ingested. The goal was to bring relief, to soothe the throbbing sensation, and perhaps to induce a gentle, restorative sleep for the suffering patient. Of course, the Egyptians would not have understood the precise pharmacology of opium as we do today. They wouldn't have known about alkaloids like morphine and codeine, but they certainly understood the effects. They observed that it could quiet pain, calm agitation, and lead to slumber. This empirical observation was enough for them to recognize its value. It's a fascinating example of ancient cultures utilizing powerful natural substances with remarkable sophistication. Even without a scientific understanding of their mechanisms, historians still argue whether the Egyptians fully grasped the addictive potential of opium, or if its controlled use within a medical context prevented widespread abuse. The use of opium for pain relief is a mainstream historical fact in ancient Egyptian medicine, revealing a pragmatic approach to severe discomfort. It shows that even amidst the crocodile dung and magical incantations, there was a sophisticated understanding of natural pharmacology. It's a testament to their desire to find genuine relief, even if it meant venturing into the realm of powerful, consciousness-altering plants. You can almost feel the gentle, heavy calm that poppy could bring, pulling you deeper into a tranquil, dreamless sleep. From the soothing properties of opium to something far more invasive, We now turn our attention to one of the most extreme medical interventions known in the ancient world for severe head pain trepanation. Imagine a headache so excruciating, so utterly relentless, that the only perceived solution was to literally drill a hole in the skull? Yes, trepanation, the surgical removal of a section of bone from the skull, was practiced in ancient Egypt. Though, thankfully, it appears to have been a rare and desperate measure for headaches. Now, before you get too uncomfortable, let's take a deep breath. This wasn't something performed lightly, or for your average tension headache after a long day of pyramid building. Trepanation was a serious, life-threatening procedure, typically reserved for severe head injuries, skull fractures, or possibly, in the context of headaches, for conditions believed to be caused by internal pressure or evil spirits trapped within the head. The idea was that by creating an opening, these malevolent forces or accumulated fluids could escape, thus relieving the unbearable pain. Picture the scene, not in a sterile operating theater, but perhaps in a well-lit chamber. The ancient Egyptian physician, or Wabao priest-doctor, meticulously preparing his tools. These would have been made of bronze or flint, certainly not the precision instruments we have today. The patient, likely in immense pain already, would have been held still, perhaps given some opium for sedation, though the level of effective anesthesia available would have been minimal. The surgeon would then carefully, agonizingly, scrape or drill away sections of bone until a small opening was created. It sounds absolutely terrifying, doesn't it? The astonishing thing is that some patients actually survived these procedures. Archaeological evidence, in the form of trepanned skulls with clear signs of bone regrowth around the edges of the hole, proves that people endured this surgery and lived long enough for their bones to heal. This suggests a remarkable level of surgical skill for the time, as well as a testament to human resilience. However, many more likely succumb to infection or shock. This raises a fascinating and somewhat morbid question: was the headache truly relieved? Or did the patient simply have bigger problems to worry about? Well, the headache's gone, but I seem to have a draft in my skull now. Historians still argue whether trepanation was primarily a medical procedure aimed at relieving pressure, or if its origins were more deeply rooted in magical or spiritual beliefs about expelling demons from the head. Regardless of the underlying theory, it remains one of the most drastic and intriguing interventions for head pain from the ancient world, a true testament to the lengths people would go for relief. You can almost feel a gentle, chilling draft as we consider this ancient practice. A peculiar wind that guides you deeper into a serene, dreamless sleep, beyond the dramatic surgical interventions and the potent concoctions. The ancient Egyptians also favored far gentler approaches to headache relief, often involving the soothing application of herbal poultices and compresses. Imagine a calming balm, cool and fragrant, pressed against your throbbing temples, designed to alleviate the pain through direct contact. This method, rooted in practical observation and a deep knowledge of native flora, feels much more akin to the remedies we might reach for today. Picture yourself lying on a cool mat in an Egyptian home, perhaps by an open window allowing a soft breeze to drift in. A family member or local healer might be carefully preparing a poultice. This typically involved grinding various herbs into a fine paste, sometimes mixing them with water, oil, or even beer. The chosen herbs would likely have had known anti-inflammatory or analgesic properties, even if the Egyptians didn't understand the chemistry behind them. For instance, plants like willow bark, which contains salicin, the precursor to aspirin, or various mints known for their cooling sensation, could have been key ingredients. It sounds much more pleasant than, say, crocodile dung, doesn't it? Once prepared, this paste would be spread onto a piece of linen or papyrus and then applied directly to the affected area, usually the forehead, temples, or the back of the neck. The idea was that the active compounds in the herbs would be absorbed through the skin, bringing localized relief. The cool, moist compress itself would also have provided a soothing sensation, helping to calm the throbbing and reduce inflammation. Sometimes, these compresses might have been infused with warm water, acting like a primitive hot pack. To improve circulation or relax tense muscles, the specific herbs used could vary greatly depending on the region, the season, and the specific healer's knowledge. This method speaks to a more intuitive, comforting aspect of ancient Egyptian medicine. It wasn't about dramatic cures or mystical interventions, but about providing direct, physical comfort. It's a testament to their practical understanding of how natural elements could be used to soothe discomfort. Historians still argue whether the effectiveness of these poultices was purely topical, or if the scent of the herbs also played a role in relaxing the patient and thus indirectly alleviating the headache. Regardless, the gentle application of cool, fragrant herbs must have been a welcome respite for anyone suffering from a persistent headache. You can almost feel the gentle, earthy coolness against your own skin, easing you into a peaceful, herbal-scented slumber. To truly appreciate the ancient Egyptian approach to headaches, it's helpful to understand the people behind the cures, the physicians themselves. These weren't just random individuals dabbling in folk remedies. Medicine in ancient Egypt was a respected and specialized profession, often intertwined with the priesthood. Imagine a society where doctors were held in high esteem, some even specializing in specific body parts. An eye doctor, a dentist, or perhaps even a headache specialist, though that might be a modern overstatement of their specificity. You might envision a physician, or wabao meaning pure one, reflecting their association with temples and ritual purity, moving with an air of quiet authority. They would have undergone rigorous training, likely within temple schools or specialized medical institutions, learning from ancient texts and practical experience passed down through generations. Their knowledge wasn't just theoretical, it was built on centuries of observation and empirical testing, albeit within their unique cultural framework. They understood anatomy to a remarkable degree, especially considering their practice of mummification. You can almost see them, perhaps with shaved heads for hygiene, dressed in simple white linen, their demeanor calm and reassuring. The status of these physicians varied, but some achieved considerable fame and influence. Imhotep, for instance, who lived around 2660 BC, is often considered one of the earliest known physicians and was later deified as a god of medicine. This reverence for medical practitioners highlights the importance placed on health and healing in Egyptian society. They weren't just healers, they were integral members of the community. Often advising pharaohs and high-ranking officials, their practices for headaches, as we've seen, could range from the mystical to the remarkably practical. They would assess symptoms, consult their papyri for remedies, and decide on a course of action. This might involve preparing herbal concoctions, applying poultices, recommending specific diets, or, in more severe cases, considering surgical interventions or magical incantations. They were pragmatic, combining what they understood of the physical body with their spiritual beliefs about illness. Historians still argue whether the physicians themselves genuinely believed in the magical aspects of their cures, or if they saw them as psychological tools to reassure and comfort patients. The role of the physician in ancient Egypt was a testament to a society that valued health and sought systematic ways to combat illness, even persistent ones like headaches. They were the gatekeepers of medical knowledge, the comforting presence in times of discomfort, and the figures who brought a measure of calm to a world often fraught with pain. You can almost feel the reassuring presence of a wise, ancient healer, gently guiding your thoughts towards a peaceful, dream-filled slumber. Beyond direct treatments for headaches, the ancient Egyptians also had a keen understanding of prevention strategies. Recognizing that a good offense is sometimes the best defense against discomfort, their daily lives were filled with habits and practices that, whether consciously or not, likely contributed to their overall well-being and might have helped ward off those pesky head pains. Imagine a typical day in ancient Egypt. You'd likely be up with the sun, engaging in physical labor under the warm, dry air, but the Egyptians were also remarkably aware of the importance of hydration. The Nile, the lifeblood of their civilization, provided ample fresh water, while they didn't have our modern understanding of electrolytes. They certainly knew that drinking regularly was essential, especially in their hot climate. You might see them carrying water jars, or pausing frequently by a well, taking long, refreshing sips. Dehydration, a common trigger for headaches today, was likely less of an issue for a well-hydrated Egyptian. Their diet, too, played a role. It was largely based on whole grains, fresh fruits, vegetables, and fish from the Nile, while they enjoyed rich foods during feasts. Their everyday meals were generally simple and nutritious, avoiding the processed sugars and unhealthy fats that contribute to many modern ailments. Imagine a breakfast of bread and dates, a simple, balanced start to the day. This consistent, wholesome diet would have provided a steady supply of nutrients, helping to maintain stable blood sugar levels and overall bodily balance, which can certainly impact headache frequency. Historians still argue whether the Egyptian diet was always as balanced as depictions suggest, or if periods of scarcity led to nutritional deficiencies. Beyond diet, the Egyptians also placed importance on hygiene and personal care. While they didn't have modern sanitation, they were meticulous about bathing, often using natron and natural salt and oils to cleanse their bodies. Their homes, while often simple, were kept tidy, and they frequently burned incense, perhaps as much for purification as for fragrance. This attention to cleanliness, though different from ours, would have reduced exposure to some irritants and pathogens that could indirectly trigger headaches. And finally, consider the rhythm of their lives. While undoubtedly hardworking, their society also incorporated periods of rest and ritual. The emphasis on spiritual well-being, the structured nature of their daily routines, and the relative absence of constant artificial light and noise pollution compared to modern life might have contributed to a more natural sleep cycle and reduced stress levels. You can almost feel the sun warming your skin, the cool water quenching your thirst, and the rhythmic pace of ancient life lulling you into a state of deep, uninterrupted peace, free from the worries of a throbbing head, carrying you effortlessly into slumber. Among the array of ancient Egyptian remedies, one ingredient stands out for its versatility and widespread use, not just for headaches, but for a myriad of ailments. Honey, imagine its golden gleam, thick and viscous, stored in elegant ceramic jars, a gift from the diligent bees. Honey was far more than a sweetener for the Egyptians. It was a potent medicine. Revered for its antiseptic properties and its ability to soothe, you'd find honey mentioned frequently in medical papyri for various conditions, and it's easy to see why it would have been a go-to for headaches. First, its soothing qualities, mixed with other ingredients. It could create a palatable paste or liquid for internal consumption, or a comforting balm for external application. Imagine a gentle, warm mixture of honey and perhaps some powdered herbs, slowly dissolving in your mouth, its sweetness a pleasant distraction from the pain. This wasn't just a treat, it was a targeted delivery system for other medicinal compounds. Beyond its palatability, honey has natural antimicrobial properties. While the Egyptians wouldn't have understood bacteria, they observed that honey helped wounds heal and prevented infection. This perceived cleansing power likely extended to their understanding of internal ailments. If a headache was thought to be caused by some internal corruption or bad humors, honey's purifying reputation would make it an ideal antidote. Perhaps it was mixed with the garlic and onion, acting as a binding agent and making the concoction slightly more agreeable. Consider the practical application for a headache. Honey could be mixed with water to create a sweet, soothing drink, believed to calm the nervous system and potentially reduce inflammation. Or it could be combined with other herbs and applied as a paste to the forehead, Much like the herbal poultices we discussed earlier, the sticky nature of honey would help the poultice adhere to the skin, delivering the medicinal properties directly to the affected area. It's a surprisingly sophisticated use of a natural product, recognizing its inherent qualities for both internal and external application. Historians still argue whether honey was primarily used for its intrinsic medicinal value, or if its pleasant taste helped ensure patient compliance with otherwise unpalatable remedies. The widespread and varied use of honey in ancient Egyptian medicine highlights their ingenuity in utilizing the resources readily available to them. It's a reminder that even the simplest ingredients, when understood and applied with purpose, can become powerful tools for healing and comfort. You can almost taste the gentle sweetness now, a soothing flavor that blends seamlessly with the quiet hum of history, lulling you deeper into a peaceful, sweet slumber. While honey might have been a delight for the taste buds, some ancient Egyptian remedies ventured into territory that might make us distinctly less comfortable the use of animal parts for various ailments. When conventional remedies failed, or when a headache was particularly stubborn, ancient Egyptian healers sometimes turned to the more unconventional, incorporating elements from the animal kingdom into their concoctions. Imagine a busy Egyptian apothecary, filled not just with jars of herbs and honey, but also with dried animal organs, powdered bones, or even carefully preserved insect parts. The logic behind using these ingredients was often rooted in sympathetic magic, the belief that something from an animal possessing a particular quality could transfer that quality to the human. For example, if an animal was strong or resilient, parts of it might be believed to bestow strength or resilience upon the patient. For headaches specifically, some papyri mention ingredients like the brain of a tortoise or the fat of a cat. The preparation methods are, thankfully, often vague, but you can imagine these ingredients being dried, powdered, and then mixed with other substances, perhaps an aromatic oil or some soothing herbs, to create a poultice or an ointment. This concoction would then be applied to the head or temples, with the hope that the essence of the animal part would drive away the pain. Don't worry, just a little tortoise brain. It'll clear that right up. Sounds like something an ancient Egyptian would genuinely say, with a reassuring smile. Another quirky tidbit, found in one of the less commonly referenced papyri, suggests applying a small, dried piece of bat's wing to the forehead, believing that the bat's nocturnal. Quiet nature could somehow transfer calm and silence to a throbbing head. It certainly puts modern cold packs into perspective. Doesn't it? The sheer inventiveness, or perhaps desperation, involved in these remedies is truly fascinating. While these practices seem bizarre to us, it's important to remember the context. The Egyptians were working with limited knowledge of biology and chemistry. They observed, they experimented, and they often drew conclusions based on symbolism and analogy. These animal-based remedies were born from a combination of empirical observation, however misguided, and deeply held magical beliefs. Historians still argue whether these animal part remedies were effective due to placebo effect, or if some ingredients possessed unknown biochemical properties that might have offered subtle relief. Regardless, it highlights the vast and often strange landscape of ancient medicine. You can almost feel the gentle brush of an ancient, mysterious creature as these tales float around you, easing you into a wonderfully peaceful, animal-free slumber among the diverse arsenal of ancient Egyptian headache remedies. Some were surprisingly simple, perhaps even comforting in their straightforwardness. One such remedy, frequently mentioned in various medical texts, was the application of a bandage of clay. Imagine a cool, damp piece of earth, molded and pressed gently against a feverish forehead, offering immediate, palpable relief. This wasn't just any clay, it was often a specific type of Nile mud, known for its cooling properties and fine texture. The preparation was simple. The clay would be moistened, perhaps with water or a specific herbal infusion, to create a smooth, pliable paste. This paste would then be spread onto a piece of linen or directly applied to the skin of the forehead, temples, or even the back of the neck. You can almost feel the gentle weight and soothing coolness of the damp clay drawing out the heat and throbbing sensation. The effectiveness of such a simple remedy lies in its physical properties. The cool, moist clay would have acted as a primitive cold compress, constricting blood vessels and reducing inflammation, much like an ice pack does today. As the clay slowly dried, it would have created a gentle pulling sensation on the skin, which some might have found distracting from the headache itself. It's a reminder that sometimes the most effective remedies are those that provide immediate, tangible comfort, rather than complex chemical interactions. Just put some mud on it. Seems to be a surprisingly enduring piece of medical advice across cultures. This remedy stands in stark contrast to the more exotic or invasive treatments we've discussed. It suggests a pragmatic understanding of basic physics and human comfort. It was likely a widespread, accessible remedy, used by ordinary people in their homes, far from the specialized practices of the elite physicians. It required no rare ingredients, no intricate rituals. Just the earth beneath their feet and a bit of ingenuity. Historians still argue whether the perceived benefits were purely physical due to the cooling effect, or if the symbolic connection to the life-giving Nile also played a role in the patient's belief in the cure. The bandage of clay offers a glimpse into the everyday struggles and simple solutions of ancient Egyptian life. It's a testament to human resourcefulness in the face of discomfort, and a gentle reminder that, sometimes, the oldest cures are surprisingly universal. You can almost feel the soothing coolness now, a calming balm that draws you deeper into a tranquil, dreamless sleep, beyond the specific remedies, whether they involved pungent garlic or soothing clay. It's worth pausing to consider the social aspects of illness in ancient Egypt and how something as common as a headache might have impacted daily life. While we often focus on the grand monuments and the lives of pharaohs, the vast majority of Egyptians were ordinary people, working, living, and inevitably suffering from ailments just like us. Imagine yourself as a farmer, toiling under the scorching sun in the fertile fields along the Nile. A pounding headache wouldn't just be an inconvenience. It could be a significant obstacle to your livelihood. If you couldn't work, your family might suffer. The collective nature of ancient Egyptian society meant that illness in one member could ripple through a household, impacting everyone. You might see a family rallying around a member suffering from a particularly bad headache, trying to administer remedies, offering comfort, and perhaps taking over their duties for the day. There were no sick days in the modern sense. Life simply continued. For those in more privileged positions, perhaps a scribe or a craftsman, a headache might impede their intricate work, leading to errors in hieroglyphs or flaws in delicate pottery. Imagine trying to paint a detailed scene on a tomb wall with a throbbing migraine. It would be an exercise in extreme patience and discomfort. This highlights how even a seemingly minor ailment could have tangible economic and social consequences in a society where every pair of hands was crucial. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptians had a concept of mental health as we understand it today, or if all ailments were primarily seen as physical or spiritual imbalances. The Egyptians, however, were also a deeply communal people. If someone was ill, there was often a network of support, from family members to local healers or priests. You wouldn't simply suffer alone. Remedies would be prepared, incantations might be whispered, and a sense of collective concern would surround the ailing individual. This community support, while not a medical cure in itself, would certainly have provided psychological comfort, a gentle reassurance that you were not alone in your discomfort. So, while we marvel at their bizarre or brilliant remedies, remember that the experience of a headache in ancient Egypt was deeply human. It was a moment of vulnerability, often met with a mix of practical care, spiritual belief, and community support. The persistent throb in the head was a shared experience, a reminder that even across millennia, The human body and its occasional aches remain remarkably similar. You can almost feel the gentle pulse of life in an ancient village, the shared rhythms of community, easing you into a profound and comforting slumber. As our gentle journey through ancient Egyptian headache cures draws to a close, it's fascinating to consider how many of their approaches, bizarre or not, have subtle modern echoes. While we certainly don't reach for crocodile dung or bat wings today, the underlying principles of some ancient remedies can still be seen, albeit in far more refined forms. In our contemporary practices, think about the simple herbal poultices and compresses the Egyptians used. What are our modern pain patches, menthol rubs, or even ice packs? If not direct descendants of that idea, the principle of applying a soothing, pain-relieving substance topically to the affected area is a timeless one. We might have advanced chemistry, but the core concept of localized relief remains remarkably similar. You can almost feel the gentle coolness of an ancient clay poultice transforming into the familiar chill of an ice pack, settling you into a deeper calm. And what about the opium poppy? While now highly regulated and synthesized into pharmaceuticals, the fundamental understanding that certain plant compounds can alleviate severe pain is a knowledge passed down through millennia. The Egyptians empirically discovered what countless chemists later refined. It's a testament to ancient observation skills, recognizing nature's powerful pharmacy. Even the magical incantations and amulets, while seemingly primitive, tap into a powerful human need, the psychological component of healing, the placebo effect. Our mind's incredible ability to influence our body's perception of pain is something modern medicine acknowledges and sometimes even leverages. A comforting word from a trusted doctor, the ritual of taking a pill, or the belief in a specific treatment can all contribute to a sense of well-being. Just as an ancient Egyptian's faith in a protective amulet might have, historians still argue about the precise balance between empirical knowledge and magical belief in their daily medical practices. But it's clear both played a role. So, as the sun sets over the ancient Nile, and the whispers of Egyptian remedies fade into the night, remember that the quest for relief from headaches is a profoundly human endeavor, one that spans thousands of years, from the peculiar to the surprisingly prescient. The Egyptians, in their own unique way, grappled with discomfort, just as we do. They're creative, sometimes baffling, but always earnest efforts remind us that even the simplest of pains can inspire the most extraordinary of solutions. The day is winding down, the world outside growing quiet. Your mind is calm, your body relaxed. Allow the soft murmur of these historical tales to become a comforting presence, like a favorite blanket pulling you into stillness. There's nothing left to do now but to breathe, to simply be, and to let the peacefulness of this moment embrace you fully. Each breath in, a gentle sigh of contentment. Each breath out, a release of any lingering thought. The history of headaches and their curious cures has been explored. And now, it's time for you to drift into a deep, restorative sleep. Sweet dreams.